Welcome to another installment of Gardens and Grub here in Durham, North Carolina. This will be our last installment, unfortunately, but stay tuned because we're talking about doing something once a month that's sort of a larger online cooking. So stay tuned for that. Me and Krista will let you know when that comes about. But today we're going to talk about a very interesting ingredient for about 20 minutes. And then, of course, we always take questions for the last 10. So feel free to raise your hand in Zoom or write in the chat box or message us on Facebook. So today we're going to talk about an ingredient that was essential to an ancient tribe that actually fell out of favor for about 500 years for very good political reasons, but it's very nutritious and now considered a functional food, aka like a functional nutrition food. Oh, superfood. That's what marketers call it. But it is chia. So this is chia seed. If you can see that, these little tiny brown mottled seeds, about 0.04 inches wide. And they are a delicious and nutritious way to like boost the nutrition of anything that you're eating. So we're going to talk a little bit about the history, cultivation, all the things that we normally do. So this was the third most valuable crop to the ancient Aztecs. So in pre-Columbian times, when Columbus discovered the New World, there were lots of other people already living in the Americas when they were discovered. So this was the third most important crop to the ancient Aztecs. The reason that was so important to them is because of its nutrition and the fact that it can be grown basically in desert soils without irrigation. It is very rich in protein. It is very rich in omega-3 fatty acids, very rich in fiber. And we're going to talk about those three categories and how they affect our health. But first, the Aztecs were an ancient tribe. I've been watching all kinds of history videos on the Aztecs and how they developed as a society. Completely fascinating. They actually started their empire in the middle of a lake, which is now current Mexico City. This actually grew in more desert areas on the western coast. And also there's another species. This is, what is the name of this? I'll think of it again. Sylvanica hispania. Anyway, there's another species of this that actually grows in the southwestern United States and northern Mexico. That one also is used for food, but this was actually along the western coast of current day Mexico. This doesn't require much to cultivate it. It's in the mint family, and we all know that when you put mint in the ground, it's very difficult to kill. This actually would create this little seed. It is not a grain. You'll see this be called like a super grain or an ancient grain. It's not really a grain. A grain is a seed to a grass. So corn is a grain, wheat is a grain, barley is a grain. That's a grass, and it does not have all of the amino acids that you need for your protein building in your body. This is from a broadleaf plant in the mint family, and it does have all of the amino acids that you would need. So if you know of a vegetarian or a vegan, especially vegans, if their parents are worried about when they call me and say, oh no, my daughter's she's gonna be vegan, her teeth are gonna fall out. I tell them, no, there's lots of ways to get lots of plant protein, and this is one of them. Eating some of this is just like eating meat or eggs or something. It gives you all of the essential amino acids that you need to survive, whereas beans by themselves are missing a couple, and corn is missing a couple. In order to get the full 8 amino acids that are technically 9 essential amino acids that you need, you can eat something from an animal product, or you can eat beans and corn together, or it's a grain and a legume together. So like wheat and peanut butter is a legume and a grain, or a beans and a corn tortilla, that is a legume and a grain, and that gives you all the 9 essential amino acids. But if you eat things like flax, chia, some other combinations that work, but this, quinoa, those all have the essential amino acids that you need if you're a vegan. So you can include this as a healthy addition to your diet. This would not be the only source that I would recommend to get 9 essential amino acids, but this is a really good one. But the Aztecs were an absolute fascinating people. And after they had dominated all of the land, they would get it's recorded between 4,000 and 10,000 tons of this offered to them donated, as it were, given to them because they had conquered all around what is current day most of the area of Mexico, but in this sort of central Mexico City is where they started. And they actually started in the island in the middle of a lake. And I could go on for hours about their agriculture techniques. Absolutely fascinating. Now there's not a lot of lakes there. It's all filled in, and Mexico City sits on top of where that lake used to be. Amazing, in a mountain valley. Totally beautiful area. So one of the best things about chia is that the reason, well, let me tell you about this. In the pre-Columbian times, this was a very valuable crop. And then Columbus came over and wanted to dominate that culture, as they did everywhere. All of the Europeans came to plunder and take over lands and expand wealth. And so when they came and they encountered the Aztecs and they started to dominate them, what they did was made this illegal to grow. Not really sure why. People guess that it's because this is a desert plant that is frost tolerant. So when they tried to take this and grow it in Europe, it didn't really do well. It probably would have done well in the Mediterranean, but they tried to grow it. It wasn't really successful there. And plus, beans and corn, those were easier to take from that area, bring them over, and then cultivate them there. So they tried to push wheat and barley production in that area, which they did. And so for about 500 years or more, chia really stopped being cultivated and was sort of pushed to the coastal areas of West South America. And then about 1991 to 1994, a group of scientists, farmers, corporations, all in South America and then some in the USA, decided to expand cultivation of this crop again because it grows so easily in the right area. It doesn't need a lot of irrigation and fertilization. It provides this very, very nutritious crop in order to reduce the amount of work that it took to grow a crop that would benefit human health so greatly. Plus, it's a heritage crop for that area of the world. So really, really excellent thing to have around. It doesn't really taste like anything. So you can sprinkle it into a smoothie. You can put it on a salad. I don't recommend taking spoonfuls of it and just drinking it with water because it contains a lot of fiber. We'll talk about that in a minute. Another way that you can use this is you can like stir it into a soup. Always eat it with something that has a lot of moisture in it. You wouldn't sprinkle this on top of like a steak or something like that. You need something with more water in it because it is hygroscopic or hydrophilic. Those both kind of mean the same thing. It means attracting and holding water. So you'll see this when you have a bowl of sugar out. Sugar is hygroscopic or hydrophilic, meaning liking water. And if you leave a bowl of sugar out for a few hours on a hot, humid day, you'll get this like crust on the top. That is the sugar absorbing water and becoming hard. This absorbs like 10 to 12 times its weight in water because of the very, very high fiber in it. So you need to be careful with that. People have in the past, very, very rare, but people thought, you know, how we are in America, if it's a little bit is good, then a whole lot is a whole lot better. It's not true, but you know, people think that. A gentleman had taken like a quarter cup of this and eaten it dry and then drank a glass of water, and it actually caused a blockage in his esophagus. So let me show you what happens when you hydrate this. So if you stir this, it becomes like a pudding when you mix it with water. So it's this kind of gooey, schmooey mixture, and not a lot of other things do that. And this is soluble fiber. So plants contain fiber and we need it a minimum of 28 grams a day in order to be healthy. It's better to get 40 or 45 a day, but a minimum, the recommended daily allowance by the American Dietetic Association is 28 grams per day to get, which is an ounce of fiber by weight per day. And you can get this from any plants. Anything from the animal kingdom does not have fiber. I think shrimp has like a small amount, but it's negligible. You really want to get plant foods. So that's why they say eat 5 a day or eat 9 a day. It's because not only the anti-inflammatory effects of fruits and vegetables, but they keep you regular. They give you lots of vitamins and minerals, but fiber is incredibly important. And fiber is like the structural molecules of plants. And so we need to eat them in order to remain healthy. There's the insoluble fibers, which are the strong sort of structures, like when you break a piece of celery and you kind of get that peel of those little strings. Those are cellulose fibers. They give the plant strength. And because plant cells have cell walls and it gives them strength. Those are great to provide bulk when we eat. It makes us full. It is indigestible to us. So when you eat fiber of all kinds, it actually makes you feel full with no calories because our body lacks the enzymes to break down those starch chains. They're arranged in such a way that we lack the enzymes to break them down. And so structural proteins are insoluble fibers. And then these gooey schmooey proteins, these jelly, they're called like mucilaginous fibers. It sounds terrible, but that's what it is. These are soluble and they do sort of a different job in our bodies. So they actually also cause bulk when we're eating. They surround sugars and starches that we eat. So when you eat like wheat bread versus white bread actually has a lot of fiber in it. So you're going to have a lot less calories in the same volume of wheat bread versus white bread. Your body's not going to be able to digest what's in the wheat bread because there's fiber in there. When you eat a lot of fiber, it actually surrounds the sugars that you eat and kind of mixes up with them and makes them harder to digest, which is a really good thing. So people who maybe are pre-diabetic or diabetic, consuming a high fiber diet is very important because you never want to spike your blood sugar. It's not good for anyone to spike your blood sugar, but if you especially are having a lack of insulin response, when your body lets out insulin, but it is not collecting the sugar and bringing it into your cells like it should, you want to prevent that spike because it can cause a lot of problems. If you eat a high fiber diet, you have this nice curve of your body uptaking sugars in collaboration with insulin because there's so much fiber in there. It's taking up room so that the enzymes that are there to break down all those sugars are bumping into fibers that they can't break down and have to move around and find something they can break down. It's kind of like a crowded room. So rather than just being all full of all the stuff that those enzymes can break down, there's lots of molecules that they can't. So that's how that's able to do that nice, easy, kind of curve rather than a spike. So great thing to just have around, have a little shaker of it, or a little jar, put a little sprinkle on things. It really doesn't taste like anything. So it doesn't really change the flavor of things. It's not like something like turmeric, which is really good for you, but has not an odd flavor if you're used to it and you love it. But when people first get started, because turmeric is really good for you, it's a little bit, you have to get used to the flavor if it isn't something that you grew up with. It's an acquired taste. This doesn't taste like anything. So it's really great to put on things. Another thing that it offers us when we eat a lot of fibers, these soluble fibers reduce our cholesterol. And how they do that is that when you eat them, they're mixed up with your food in your bowel, and in order to digest fats, and in order to digest fats, we need cholesterol to make bile. And so bile is released and it comes out and it's released from our gallbladder and it attaches to fats as we're digesting them. If you eat a high fiber diet, especially with these high soluble fibers, these soluble fibers bind to bile. And so it pulls the bile out of your body rather than it being reabsorbed into your body, because your body likes to recycle things. And so not only are you taking bile out of your body, you're also taking fats out of your body. And then also your body needs to use cholesterol to make more bile. So that's how it's able to lower your cholesterol, is it's first taking more cholesterol out of your body, and it's also using the cholesterol that's left in your body to make more bile. So the stuff that's actually flowing around in your blood is reduced. And that's how eating a high fiber diet will reduce your cholesterol. It also reduces your blood pressure. There's so many antioxidants in here. It actually reduces inflammation in a lot of ways. So there's just a lot of really great things about chia that is just an easy thing to put into your diet. It used to be 10 years ago, unless you were in like the health spheres or worked at a healthy grocery store or were a vegan, or 10 or 15 or even 20 years ago, unless you were like living in California or something, nobody even really knew what chia was. But now it's everywhere. You can buy it, I think, like at a regular grocery store now. You don't even have to go to a specialty store to get it. You can go to like the gluten-free area. A lot of times they'll have it there where they have the other flours. Sometimes they'll be with like the seeds or the baking area. But it's just a really great way to, and really accessible way now to get it. You can buy it in bulk for around $6 a pound, and a pound is a lot of chia. You don't need to eat a lot. It's better to eat smaller amounts of it throughout the day than it is to just like, drink a bunch of it. Some people love the way this tastes. They love this texture. I don't prefer it, but I mean, just to refresh my memory, I ate a couple of spoons of this just to remember, but this is actually an egg substitute in vegan recipes. You can make a real thick version of this. This is about the right consistency, maybe a little bit thicker if you wanted to use this as an egg substitute if you were baking. So I never have, because I have really good chickens out back. But some people like to take this and mix it in like yogurt or milk, or an alternative milk-like beverage, and then add fruit to it and eat it like a pudding. So some people really like that. I don't really like it like that, but I'm not here to yuck anybody else's yum. I say give it a try. When I do make smoothies with this, because I don't really like this consistency, like if you don't like the inside of okra, you're not gonna like this, because the inside of okra, that gooey schmooey mucilaginous thing, when you pull it apart in there, or the inside of a fresh aloe vera plant, this is the same kind of fiber, those soluble fibers. They're just already hydrated inside those plants, whereas these are dry and you have to hydrate them because it's a desert plant. So, but give it a try in different ways. See what you like. You can bake with it. It has a lot of the same fatty acid profile as flaxseed, but in order to get the benefits of the omega-3 fatty acids and fiber from flaxseed, you actually have to break the flaxseed. Otherwise, the seed coating will just allow it to digest right through you. But chia, you don't need to crush it or grind it in order to get the benefit of it. You don't need to refrigerate this. Normally, I recommend that people refrigerate seeds, oil seeds, especially like this, but they're so high in antioxidants, these are actually good at room temperature for at least 5 years. So you can buy some, put it in a glass jar, throw it in a dark cabinet. As long as it's not hot, as long as it's like a room temperature, it'll stay good for a minimum of 5 years. So just try to get it from a reputable source if you can, where it's being used up a lot, so it's not being stored forever before it's packaged. So I wouldn't buy some off brand somewhere. I would, buy like a recognized brand of some kind. I can't promote any particular brand, but there are lots of good ones out there. And usually if you buy from a bulk section in a reputable retailer, they're going to be going through that so fast that it's going to be fresh and it's going to be good. So you can always tell if an oil seed is bad by smelling it. If it smells bitter, it's no good anymore. So just give them a sniff and check it out. But really, I've never had bad chia because it just stays good for so long. So real quickly, the omega-3 fatty acid profile in this. Omega-3 fatty acids are the hardest ones to get, and this is the richest plant source that is commonly available that we know of as human food on Earth. So if you have a vegan in your life, or if you have, you want to consume more omega-3 fatty acids, but you don't like the taste of fish, or you are confused, or you're confused by what's good fish and what's not good fish, because it is very confusing out there where your source of fish comes from. Like, believe me, I love wild caught fish. I know that, I'm getting it from a wild source. That may not always be good depending on the water that it came from, because we know we're contaminating a lot of the oceans and lakes out there. But then there's also farm raised, which can be really good food. But if it's not from a reputable farm, they could just be feeding it corn and then coloring the flesh with, colorants to basically make it look like salmon, or make it look like, trout or whatever, if it's farmed. So also one sort of issue that I have with the recommendation that we need to eat 3 to 4 servings of fish a week is that we're going to fish out the oceans. Like, what are we going to do? There's so many of us. There's billions of people on Earth. And if we're all eating 4 servings of fish a week for health, we're going to fish out all the waters that we have. So we need to get these from plant sources. And this is a great way to do it. Another really easy one to get it from is purslane, also called verdolagas. It grows like a weed in my yard. For some reason, North Carolina people spray it to kill it, maybe because it's in their lawn. But I actually grow it in the backyard. It comes up every summer. It's a beautiful summer green, and it's packed with omega-3 fatty acids. And you need them. You need them for the health of your cells. You need them for the health of your nerves, your brain, your skin. They're antioxidant in nature. There's so many things about omega-3 fatty acids that you truly need. And before we run out of time, I have to show you the first time I ever heard about chia. I didn't even know it was food. And I'm sure those of you, I'm dating myself, but those Gen Xers out there like myself, we remember the Chia Pet. So chia. This one happens to be the Golden Girls, Chia. This is Chia Sophia. She's the mother of the Golden Girls. And if you've never watched that show, it's what I call joyful garbage. It's not educational at all, but it's a group of ladies, elders who live together in a house in Miami in the 80s. And it's hysterical. It's like something that you can like watch, and it's not complicated, and it's funny. It's adorable. Anyway, I love me some Golden Girls. And a Chia Pet, what they would do is send you this small package. And I remember having a Chia Pet as a kid. You couldn't buy chia in the grocery store, and you have to mix up the stuff and let it sit overnight so it's gooey schmooey. And then you smear it on the top, and then you just like mist it and it'll sprout. These are actually really nutritious sprouts to eat, but I didn't know it was food. And I remember I grew my first Chia Pet, and I ran out of seeds, and I thought, well, do I have to buy another Chia Pet to get more chia? Little did I know that 10 years later or 15 years later, this would be like all over the place, and you could buy it and put it on your cereal in the morning. So anyway, but I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. You can ask me about chia, or you can ask me anything about gardening or whatever you want.
Thanks, Cheralyn. That was very helpful. I am a vegetarian, so I enjoy learning about ways I can have a healthier diet. So thank you. So the first question we had was, could you spell the purslane that you mentioned so people could look it up?
Yeah, Purslane, purslane. You can get them in Latinx grocery stores under verdolagas. It's verdolagas, verdolagas. It's it just grows everywhere. There's different, not species, but different varieties that grow in different places. Even there's some that grow in the desert. They call it like horse purslane out there. It's a little more prostrate towards the ground with redder stems. There's a yellow purslane, which to me is the most delicious. But if you find a little bit of purslane growing somewhere and you know it's actually that plant, you can always text me a picture and I can identify it for you. Wash it, and then take that water, because there's microscopic seeds that last like 30 years in the soil, and throw it out on your garden bed, and it'll come up again. And it grows in poor soils, so you don't even need a garden to have it grow everywhere. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. That's my next. And when does it grow? What season?
In the summer. And that's the thing, is you don't have lettuce and spinach in the summer unless you're growing something they call a summer spinach, but it's not true spinach. Your lettuces and stuff like that are cool season crops. So there's things that the stuff that grows in the summer that you can eat as a green is like vining spinach, which isn't really, it's a tropical plant. You can eat like sweet potato greens as a salad. You can eat purslane as a salad. Amaranth, if it's really small, you can pick the leaves and eat them as a salad. But otherwise, there's not a lot of summer greens. So when I find New Zealand spinach is another one that's an excellent summer green. But yeah, really good. And you'll notice all the summer greens have a lot of that fiber in them. Because they need to hold water in the heat, they'll actually have, you can taste them. They'll have their like more succulent leaves, and they have more of this kind of fiber in them. You can taste it.
Interesting. Very cool.
Not as gooey as okra though, so don't be turned off. It's very solid.
Not like okra. So then our next question is about growing chia ourselves. So you said when you were describing the chia sprouts that they would sprout out and then you could eat the sprouts. So the question is, how could I grow to get chia seeds?
Easy to grow for chia seeds, but just like anything else that creates a tiny seed, like if you're going to grow amaranth or quinoa in your yard, it's very difficult to get the seeds off of it. I would grow it more for the greens, and I would grow them out there until they're kind of large and then eat them like a salad or something like that. But, mixed with other things. But anything that creates a tiny, tiny seed, it's very difficult to get this clean, gorgeous seed like this. It's just cheaper to buy it. And then if you wanted to grow sprouts at your home, what you can do, anything that's like real small like this, alfalfa, stuff like that, take one of those, like if you buy a container of berries of some kind, strawberries are real good, wet a paper towel and put it in the bottom, sprinkle it with the seeds and just mist it with a sprayer, and they'll start to grow on their own. But make sure that everything you do is like bleach clean. Okay, sprouts are just as dangerous as raw oysters as a food product, because if people will just, they don't recognize how their kitchen is actually usually dirtier than their bathroom when it comes to like biofilms and the microbiological communities that are growing there. If you don't have absolutely the most like bleach clean hard surface kitchen, and you're like the kind of person that like washes your drain board like a few times a week, if you're not that kind of person, sprouting's probably not for you. I wouldn't risk it. It's not worth it when you could just sprinkle this, or sprinkle these in your yard and get like some small sprouts. Those are going to be better than sprouting in your kitchen, where you can contaminate them with E. coli, salmonella, like you name it, listeria, whatever. You can really, it's very easy to do that in your kitchen, because your kitchen it's a hot zone. It's where people dump things, wash their hands. It's a family centered area. It's not an area that's like, yeah. So if you try to grow sprouts, like I just spoke to somebody about starting their own food truck, and she's brand new to it, and we were talking about like what you would need to do, and I said, but you got to tell me your menu. And she's like, well, she didn't understand why. And I was like, well, are you going to be a cupcake truck? Because cupcakes don't have any water activity and you don't even need a sink. But if you're going to serve raw oysters or sprouts, that's like the other end of the spectrum. If you're going to cook everything, is it going to be sandwiches? There's all of these different rules based on how potentially dangerous or hazardous that particular food is. And there's like raw seafood, especially shellfish. It's like shellfish, then sushi, then like sprouts, and then like salad, like, because salad also, you're not cooking it, there's not a kill step. So just sprouting is great. I love sprouting. I love sprouting things like beans and lentils. And even when I sprout at home, I still saute them lightly before I serve them. If you have a kill step in there where you would kill bacteria by heating them, you're good to go. So start with something easy that you can cook after sprouting it before you get into the world of fresh sprouts, which can be really beneficial, really amazing. I'm not trying to prevent you from doing it. It's just that make sure that you like are super clean. And if you want to go deeper with that, just give me a call and I can set you up for success.
Thank you. So we have a question about kelp powder. Is kelp powder something that is healthy for me to be putting in my food?
So it really depends. Kelp, it really depends on the water that the kelp is from. So things like spirulina, kelp, just be really careful, figure out where they're getting it from, and really look up where you're like, I would sooner eat like whole kelp than kelp powder, just because it's another process that it goes through. And if you're eating something like dulse or something that's like a whole seaweed, or like a nori, piece of nori, you're eating the actual seaweed. But when something is ground up, it could be adulterated with other things. So just make sure you're getting it from a reputable source. I would avoid spirulina. There's some contamination issues right now with spirulina, not right now, but just like in general with things. So just be really careful about what you buy. If something's a superfood, you're kind of better to eat it in its whole, state than it is to eat something that's like, once something becomes a supplement, you have to be really careful. Supplements aren't really regulated. So maybe they're regulated a little bit, but not like drugs are. So just be really careful. It's better if you're eating kind of unadulterated foods, like, if you eat an orange versus orange juice. Oranges, you're getting an orange. But if you're drinking orange juice, sometimes that orange juice is pasteurized orange juice, could be up to a year old, and it has like fragrances in it and stuff. So if you're eating a whole food, that the adulteration potential is significantly reduced.
Wow, that's a little scary sometimes.
I don't mean to scare anybody, but you asked me because you want to know.
And so I think we have one more question here. It says, when you grow out the chia seeds from sprouts, what is the plant?
Oh, right here. I'm so glad you asked that question. It's in the mint family. So it has these beautiful opposite leaves where they're opposite of one another, rather than alternate, where there's a stem and the leaf goes like this. That's alternate. If they're right across from each other, they go like this. And then, those are alternate, I mean, opposite leaves. And the mint family has that. And it's got a square little stem on it. And it puts off these beautiful little purple flowers. I should have got a better purple. The purple flowers, I know purple's your favorite. She says it's the very best color, Krista does. It gets this really big flower stem on it. And because it self-pollinates, there is some pollen and nectar. And so pollinators do visit it, but they're also self-pollinate really well. So that's why it was such an easy crop, is that a lot of those, even just with the wind, will pollinate themselves and just drop a ton of seed. Also, when you have something that's constantly self-seeding itself, you don't have to replant it. So that's why if you put it in your garden, you only put it in once, because it's always going to come back. You put one amaranth plant in, and for the longest time at our garden, I said nobody can plant amaranth because I knew we would just be kind of like plagued with it. But somebody put in this really beautiful purple variety, and now I'm glad that it comes up everywhere because it's gorgeous, but you do have to weed it. So
that's great. Well, I have to say that we are out of time on our final episode, Cheralyn.
Well, I'll miss everybody, but you know where to find me if you have any food questions. And it has been an absolute just honor to work with all of you. If you missed any episodes, check them out on the YouTube channel. And then hopefully we'll all be getting back to normal and be able to do these classes in person, where not only will we be talking about the ingredient, will we actually be eating the foods, because that's normally what we do, is we cook and eat the foods with a particular ingredient. But it has been a pleasure. I don't know, what is this, like the 40-something episode?
Yeah, 40, I don't know, 40 something. That's right.
Yeah, so a year goes by like that.
And I'll just, if anyone needs to wants to stay in touch and get on our mailing list to get more events, you can just email me at cgibson@dconc.gov. And our YouTube channel is Durham County Cooperative Extension. So you can come and see Cheralyn's videos from past episodes that you missed.
Yes, get on our mailing list, because then when I have cooking classes and opportunities, we'll put those out on there first. And then we'll, I mean, that's opening to the general public, but you all will get that notification first, so you can join.
That's right. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you so much, Cheralyn, for sharing with us so much over these past 40-something weeks. I can't believe it's gone by so fast.
Thank you.
We'll see everybody in person soon. Woohoo! All right, bye-bye.